Hey, what's up? So I'm going to show you how we can create authentication, and the end goal is to add a decorator called authorized from the routing controllers on top of any route like this. Add authorized, and now this route is guarded by a specific validation. In our case, not specific validation, like a specific you can say strategy. In our case, it will be JSON Web Token. So to make this decorator work, we need to go to the app.ts, and when we pass our controllers, there's two things actually we can pass. First one is called the authorization checker. I will make it an asynchronous function and put it as a function like this, and this should return a promise and this promise resolved to a boolean. And by the way, this syntax is equivalent to this. Let me just show you. They are the same. Oops, I can't type. So they are the same, but I like this syntax. Yeah, and actually this here references the whole object, and that's another maybe this is the main difference. So yeah, they are not the same. This is the main difference, but you won't use this most of the time. So yeah, so the main idea behind this is to extract the JSON Web Token that we will use to validate the user from the request, verify that this is a valid token, decode that token, get that user that this token represents. If all of this steps does not produce an error, which means this user is truly authenticated and this is a valid JSON Web Token, else I will throw an error. And this function will be used by this decorator, the authorized decorator. So each time a request hits a specific endpoint, this decorator will call this function. Okay, so I will wrap everything with a try catch. So in case of any error will happen, I will just throw a new unauthorized error. And this error, actually, if you go up, I imported this from the routing controllers. So there is a lot of errors actually you can import. They are all good: forbidden, bad request. I mean the famous errors. Okay, and I'm pretty sure you can actually go here and you can extend this and maybe create your own HTTP code with HTTP message. Yeah, or maybe implement the things that does not exist. But anyway, so first thing we need to do is to get the JSON Web Token, and this exists inside this action argument of type action. This is also from the routing controllers. So const token will be in action.request.headers, and now authorization like this. This is the token will be exist here, and this is the header exist in the request, and this will return I think barrier, then the JWT separated by a space. So this is what the client should send in this header. We will actually split this by a white space and get the JSON Web Token. But before this, let me just show you a package that we will install, and I already run the server. I already installed it, but let me just show it to you. So it's JSON Web Token. So npm install JSON Web Token like this. And after you install this, you need to install also the types. So npm install JSON Web Token, but before this add types, then JSON Web Token -d. Okay, we will use this to produce JSON Web Tokens, valid JSON Web Tokens, and verify if the JSON Web Token sent by the user is valid or not. Okay, I already installed them. So what I will do, I will create a function here in the start app called get JWT, and this will accept the headers, and from the headers I will destruct the authorization. So like this, and what I will return I'll return the JSON of token, but before this I will destruct from the authorization. I will use a split and then destruct by white space. Remember that the JSON of token will be a barrier, then white space in the JWT. This is how the barrier token will be added, and yeah. So this will returns an array of 2. First I will ignore the first element and will store the token inside the second, and this will be a string, and return this token. And what I will do here, I will get just JWT and pass to it yes, I think like this. I will pass the headers to this, and from the headers I'm getting the authorization. And now I will put an if statement. I will verify the token. So to verify the token, we need to import the verify function from JSON of token. I already did this. So import verify and decode. We will use both of these. So verify, verify. You need to pass the token, and now we need to pass the secret string that we decoded this token with. And just hold on 1 second, I will show you how good way we can manage this string. And if this produces an error, so I'll put not. In this case, throw new unauthorized error as well. And this secret string, we should use it to decode and verify, not decode, to verify and produce a JSON of token, producing a JSON of token called sign. So I will put this inside our .env. I will call it JWT underscore secret. It will be equal to secret because I will use it in many places, or to be specific, 2 places. Now I imported the config from .env like we did, I think, at the beginning, and I called this config. I got the JWT secret variable from our environment, and I will use it here to verify. And I will decode, I'll sign the JWT with this as well. So now we need to get the user from the JWT, which means we need to decode it, because we will store some of the user's information in the JWT, and when you decoded that, when you decode that, you will get the user. So const decoded user will be equal to d partial user entity, and this will be equal to decode JWT, which a function I will create. So const decode JWT. I'm creating these as on top here because I will use them in 2 places. So this will accept a token, which is a string, and returns the decode function, or the result from the decode function from the JSON of token, this function. And to be specific about the type, this will return a d partial of user's entity, and this will complain, so I'll put as this because it will return just an object. So I'm telling it that this object will represent this. Okay, now decoded user will be equal to decoded JWT and pass the token. And now since we founded the user, or at least we got his information or her information, maybe you want to connect with the database here, but remember we are connecting with the database and inserting the connection inside the context in Koa.js, and we are doing this after instantiating our server. There is maybe different, maybe you can change the code to do it in a different way, but what I will do just to get the connection object here is to use this get connection type from TypeORM. This function, if you go to our index.entities or index in our entities, you can specify names for each connection. Since we're having one, so I will just leave it without a name. And if you use this get connection, you will get the only connection that you have. Okay, so await get connection and get repository I will use the user's entity repository, then find one, and pass the ID from the decoded user. And at the end, if this does not produce an error, which means everything is fine, just return true, which means this is a valid JSON web token. So this is our authorization, or I think if they should call it authentication, in my opinion. But this is our way to validate the JSON web token. So let me save. So this now will guard our routes, but another thing that we need to do is there is a decorator called one second, I'm checking what's called. It's called the current user. So if a route is guarded with this decorator, you can actually get the user that passed that authentication process with the add current user decorator, and this would be from type D partial. It's a user entity. Okay, and this comes and this from the same routing controllers package, and this function that get this decorator, which is our functions, the current user, it actually will call this function that we should define here inside a property called, I think, current user checker. So current user checker, it's an async and it's a function. This should return something that represents the user, and this the return value from here is what will be assigned here to this argument using this decorator. So let's now wrap everything in a try catch. Let's first thing get the token. Hold on 1 second. The PC just hanged. Okay, get the token. So that's why I defined a function. So pass the action, which we need to specify from type action. This action comes from the routing controllers as well. So action.headers .request.headers, and yeah. Now const decoded user will be equal to the same line here. You might add all of these in the same function, maybe just called it in two places. And so we are decoded the user. Now let's just return await the get connection function, and then get repository users entity. If you are wondering how does TypeORM knows about the connection, maybe it stores them inside maybe a global object that they have, and each connection you do, they will store it in some place, and you will get them by this. If you did not specify a name, it will get the default connection. If you have many connections, you will give each one of them a name, and then here put that name. But since we have only one, it will just return that. It's a good way to organize stuff, and sometimes you can't provide the database connection in a place, and this maybe will fix this. And if you are wondering, we are establishing connection after we are creating the server. Remember that the requests that will fire these two functions will happen definitely after we are starting the server, which means it's okay if that came up to your mind. So I will pass the ID. Maybe find one or fail. I think that will be more appropriate. Yeah, find one or fail. And this is now throw an authorized user if anything's happened. Yeah, you can actually remove the error variable. So this is for the authorized decorator and the current user decorator. And now maybe this video will be long, but now the idea is when a user, for example, when you create the posts controller, maybe I won't do this, I'm not sure, but you will decorate for example, the post request there with the authorized, and get the current user after it's have been decoded from the JWT, and assign the user underscore ID for the user underscore ID in the post will be equal to user.id. So that's how you reference the user in the future in the authorized routes, in the authenticated route. Now another thing that is important we need to do is a login route. This one would be simple, so it will be a post, it will be /login. Maybe you can create another control, a separate controller for this, but yeah, I will just do it here and I will show you something. So it will accept a body, user cred, and I will create a type for this. Actually this will return a promise from the user's entity. So let me now create a type for this and validate it. So I'll create a folder. Let me just stop the server here, called request validation, and inside of it I will create a login.rules.ts, and this will be just a normal class. I'll just copy paste. We already have been through this, so it's just a class called login rules, have an email and a password, and they both is a string. They always should be defined, and this email should be his email, and I am exporting that. All these decorators from the class validator. Let me now export. I will create the index. So export from login rules and login rules. Now let's import that here. Okay. Now let's validate this. The same way we validated everything else, or at least it's similar. So const. I'll copy this. Actually, this validation, you might want to add a decorator that does all of this. Maybe you just decorate like val like this. Maybe you can do this actually. Maybe you can. Maybe this could be. Maybe this would be a good exercise. So await, validate the user grid, and if anything happened, I'll just throw these errors. So I'm always to make this route proceed, I am accepting an email and a password. Yeah. So now if everything is fine, this does not throw an error, I'll just destruct from the user grid the password and the email, and I will wrap everything now with a try catch. If anything happened, I will throw an error, the unauthorized error, from the routing controller, and I will put the message user not found. I will remove the error here, we don't need it. So const user will be equal to await this dot user service dot get by ID. I will pass null, and I will get the user by email that the user sent, and now I will create a hashed pass. I will await hash. This is if you remember, we imported this from bycrypt in the previous video. So I will hash the password that the user sent with the salt that exists in our database for the same user based on their emails. Remember that this will fail, so if you pass the wrong email, this will throw an error. The catch will capture that and throw the unauthorized error, which means we don't have this user. You can just print a message to the user that the user credentials are wrong. Hashed like this. Now I will check if hashed password equal to the user.password. I will return the object that has the user information and an access token. So let us now delete the user.password and delete the user.salt, and creating a signing a JWT. So I will use the sign function from JSON web token, this sign, and I actually imported the config from .env, called it, and got the JSON web token secret, the same one we will use it to verify the JWT. So sign, this requires a literal object like this, but this is an instance from the user's entity. So what you can do, I think you can do this. You can actually do this, or you can convert it. So JSON.stringify, convert it to JSON. a string that presents JSON, then JSON.parse, return it to a normal object in JavaScript. You can do this as well. So let's now return the access token is equal to the JWT, and the user will be equal to the user. I will just destruct it like this. Yeah, I will just destruct the user. It won't be equal to anything. I'll put everything here after I deleted the password and the salt. Don't store the password and the salt in the JWT. Okay, that's why I deleted them before I created the JWT, because this will have everything inside the user object: the email, the ID, the created at, everything. So anything sensitive, just delete it before you do this. Usually the front-end developer will decode this token and maybe show some information to the user. Okay, so this is now done. I will just check something in our entities index. So I passed here false to the synchronized. So I want our backend won't drop anything when we finish, when we create users. So npm run dev, hopefully everything is fine. Now we have an app that has validation, authentication in it, and you can use it actually to authorize. Let me just go to our users controller. Let me add this authorized to many places. For example, I'll put it here as well, and I'm getting the current user. I'm logging that. Let us just put it as well in the not in the post. This is the register in the batch, in the delete. Let's go to postman. So let me create a user with these data. So test at test.com, and now we should see email already exists now. Yeah, because I was testing with this. Let us just call it with only one time with the true to drop everything. Okay, now false. Okay, so let's create this. Maybe in the creation as well you will not maybe, I think you should return a JSON web token here as well. You can do this, it's really easy. So send, it's fine. Now let's log in. To log in, remember we prefix this with login. So you go to /users, then /login like this. You need to send a password and a secret. If I did not send this, I will get this error. I got this bad request. Yeah, maybe I did something wrong. But yeah, this is the errors array, but not sure why it's a little bit different. Did I do something wrong? But yeah, I think this is it. Yeah, it tells us that the password should be string and it should not be null or undefined. For this stack, if you want to hide it, this is something actually I should show it to you. If you go to our app.ts and go to the create Koa server, and here put development to false. By default this is true. When you put development to false, it won't show anything that could be a potential risk. So let's send this again. So as you can see, the stack removed from the response, and we are only getting this simple response. I think this, yeah, we are only getting this simple response. I think this happened because in our users controller we are throwing this. Maybe this catch it? No, sorry, no. To be honest, I'm not sure why these two happened. Maybe because bad request error. Yeah, I mean this is a validation error, right? So this is fine. Yeah, okay, anyway, at least we have this error, right, which tells us that what we are missing. So let's try to log in with this user. Remember that all the passwords are secret. So send it. You will have the user without the password and anything important, and with the access token. If you put anything here wrong in the password, you will get the not found error. Maybe, yeah, the not found error. Maybe you'll get this now, unauthorized error. You know something, I think user not found, and when we have a wrong password, we have not found error. I think I'll put else here, throw well, how to, yeah, throw a new error, and this should give a, or just reach out here at some point. So this now, yeah, now this, when the password is wrong, we will get the same error. Yeah, sorry about this. So when the password is right, we will get this token. The front-end developer will usually store it in authorization header. So now let's go to this route /users/1 to get that user. Go to authorization and choose barrier token. Now put this JSON token here. Now try to get. You will be able to remove it. You won't be able to. Unauthorized error, and you are turning with 4-on-1. Since we are decorated this route with authorized, and if we are console logging that user, so as you can see, this is the user that sent that request. Yeah. And this is the idea behind how you can do authorization, which comes after authentication. For example, you can't delete a specific entity unless you are the creator of that entity. You will basically just use the current user decorator and check for the ID. If the ID for that user entity, for example, the post has a user entity property, right? Let's check that user ID property with that ID for the user that sent the request. You should always do this kind of validations, by the way. If they are both equal, allow it, not throw an error, which is a forbidden 403. And yeah, actually, when you create a user, you will do the same thing. You will put the user ID inside the user underscore ID in the post entity. Maybe I'm going too fast on these. Maybe I'm definitely assuming that you know how JSON token works, and if you are not, you should definitely Google about it. But basically, this is after you maybe done with googling some stuff. Maybe this is like how we can implement these kind of things. And yeah, thank you. I believe you can now go and implement other controllers, and you'll be fine, since you know how to do authentication and authorization, and yeah, you'll be fine. Thank you.